It was nearly midnight. The neon lights outside the small roadside diner flickered like they were tired too. Inside, a young woman moved slowly from table to table, wiping crumbs off chipped plastic surfaces and stacking half-empty ketchup bottles. Her name was Maria, and she was only 19. The clatter of dishes echoed through the near-empty diner. She was the only employee left on the night shift. No cook, no manager, just her. She worked quietly, her body aching, her eyes heavy, but her thoughts loud, too loud to ignore. She had dreams once, college, travel, maybe even her own cafe someday. But life doesn't always follow dreams. Sometimes it detours through hardship. And for Maria, it started when her mom fell ill and her dad walked out. The hospital bills swallowed every dollar they had. By the time she graduated high school, college was a fantasy. Now she worked double shifts and took care of her mother at home. Every dollar counted. Every step felt like survival. Tonight, though, she was more tired than usual. Her shoes had holes in them. Her phone bill was due. And earlier that day, the landlord had handed her a final eviction notice. She hadn't told her mother. Not yet. She couldn't bear to add more worry to her already fragile heart. At the far end of the diner, a man sat quietly in the corner booth, a little boy beside him asleep with his head on his dad's arm. The man was Jack, a mechanic by trade, a father by heart, and a man barely holding things together. His wife had passed away 2 years ago in a car accident, leaving him to raise their son, Eli, alone. He had stopped in for a coffee after a long day of fixing engines and chasing overdue invoices. Business wasn't good. His garage was on the edge of shutting down. But tonight wasn't about money, it was about giving Eli a warm space to rest while they waited for the tow truck to drop off a car at his shop. Jack had noticed Maria the moment he walked in. Not because she was particularly noticeable, but because she looked exactly how he felt, tired, stretched thin, and somehow still pushing forward. As she wiped the last table, Maria glanced over at the man and his sleeping son. She wondered what their story was. They had been there for over an hour, and she hadn't had the heart to rush them out. The diner's policy was to close at 12 sharp, but tonight, she let the rules bend. Jack stood slowly, careful not to wake Eli, and walked up to the register. Maria followed him and offered a tired but warm smile. "Coffee's on the house," she said quietly. Jack blinked. "You sure?" She nodded. "You've been here for a while. Thought you might need it more than we need the $2. He chuckled softly and reached into his pocket. He pulled out a crumpled dollar bill, the last one in his wallet. He hesitated, then set it on the counter. "I know it's not much," he said. "But it's all I've got tonight. And you look like you've had a day, too." Maria looked down at the worn bill. Something about it, the gesture, the honesty, made her eyes sting. "Thank you," she whispered. Jack gave a small nod. "Sometimes," he said, "we're all just trying to survive one day at a time." And with that, he scooped up his sleeping son, nodded goodbye, and walked into the night. Maria stood frozen for a moment, the dollar still in her hand. It wasn't the money. It was the humanity in it. The kindness. A stranger who saw her, really saw her, even if just for a minute. Weeks passed. Maria kept working, but something inside her had shifted. That one moment of kindness had lit a small flame in her, a reminder that even in the bleakest moments, someone can show up with a spark of hope. She started drawing again during breaks, sketches of coffee shops, pastries, cafe counters. She posted a few online and was surprised when strangers liked and shared them. One even offered her a small freelance gig designing a logo for a bakery. That one gig turned into more. She saved every penny she could. She learned digital art tutorials at night, in between shifts and caring for her mom. And slowly, step by step, she began building a future again. Meanwhile, Jack's garage barely survived the winter. He and Eli were scraping by, relying on food banks and favors. But one day, Jack got a message from a local community board. Someone had recommended his shop for a fleet repair contract. It wasn't huge, but it was steady work. Enough to breathe again. He never found out who gave the referral. Months later, their paths crossed again, not in a diner, but at a local art market. Maria had a small booth of her own, Sunrise Sketches, it was called. She was selling prints, journals, and designs. Her smile was brighter now, though the shadows of her journey still lingered. Jack was there with Eli, who tugged at his hand, pointing to a notebook with a drawing of a cozy cafe on the cover. Jack looked up, and froze. Maria smiled when she saw them. "You made it," she said. He smiled back. "I told you, sometimes we're all just trying to survive one day at a time. Looks like you're more than surviving now." She held up a notebook. "This one's on the house." Jack laughed. "Only if you let me pay with this." He reached into his wallet and pulled out a crisp $5 bill. Maria took it and said softly, "Deal." As they walked away, Eli opened the notebook and pointed to the back page. There, sketched in simple lines, was a young waitress wiping tables in a quiet diner, a small boy sleeping in the corner, and a man handing her his last dollar. Eli asked, "Daddy, is that us?" Jack looked back at Maria, who gave a small, knowing nod. "Yeah," he said. "That was the night we both got a little bit of hope." Sometimes, a single act of kindness, even a crumpled dollar and a warm smile, can become the seed of a new beginning. In a world where everyone is fighting unseen battles, be the one who sees others, even for a moment. Because that moment, it can change everything. Let me know if you'd like a thumbnail prompt, image prompts, or video voiceover script for this story.